All right, 225. You have held on, and I think admirably so, through a bunch of, can I call it more abstract and esoteric things? Eric talking to you about how I think everybody is creative. But now let's actually think just momentarily here about the hardware, and in the next video, the software that we are going to use in order to make this class happen. I really honestly do believe this. This is not me just being cheap, which you are certainly at liberty to accuse me of. The piece of hardware that we are going to rely the most on is going to be a piece of hardware that I know with almost absolute certainty I do not need to force anybody to go out and to purchase. The piece of hardware that we are going to use to help us take the photos that we're going to use for stills, the piece of hardware it is that we are going to use, that we're going to capture video for, is going to be your phone. Now, is it true that a couple of things actually are true here? That number one, over even just my lifetime in working with web video and web photography, even just in my lifetime of this, the tools of the trade have become absolutely democratized. In the beginning, when I was shooting videos for clients, whether or not we were putting together like advertising for client to client, or if we were putting together think about like instructional and educational videos for something like this would look, instructional and educational videos for businesses or schools, etc. The equipment we used to have to manage was pretty substantial. We would spend thousands of dollars on cameras that would have honestly really very very limited digital storage, so it was making extra work when we had to determine, like, okay, is this a take that we can use, or is this a take that can maybe get deleted? We would just go through dozens and dozens of camera cards, and it was a huge nightmare. I felt it was a huge nightmare to have to manage, and over time the hardware started to come down in price. No longer do you, as a professional photographer, have to spend, 10, 15, $25,000 to get a really high quality, either still or video camera. You can go out and buy a used Sony A7 III, and you have a really capable piece of hardware for that. If you don't like Sony, you can go out and buy, a Canon RX50, or is it an R50? I will tell you the truth. I used to be a Canon person, and now I have slowly slid into the Sony camp, and there's just a portion of my brain that no longer contributes to remembering Canon hardware names. I do believe it's the R50. So you can go and buy, a several $100 camera, and a relatively inexpensive lens, and you can really create the kind of content that you would like to create. But if I require you as the student to go out and to spend several $100s on equipment, I don't want to do that. We're already charging enough for class. We're already telling you, not just for my class, but for all of our classes, go and spend hundreds on books. Now go and spend thousands on a laptop, a desktop, a monitor, a camera, all the storage you're going to need. I don't want to do that. So what I can tell you, and I can say this in all honesty, this is not something that I have any qualms saying to any student, is you are absolutely positively capable of starting your journey into creating digital content, whether or not it is strictly speaking still photography or video content, with a phone. The lenses have become better. The hardware, so the things that I don't particularly find a ton of value in getting into, like the megapixel count and etc. And we'll talk about cameras again later on down the line. Um, they are capable, whether or not you have. So this right in front of me is a Google Pixel 9 Pro. Okay, great. It's the one I have in my pocket. That's what I'll be using for some of this. I have an iPhone here. Great. I know many of you will have Android phones or iPhones. Let's go. It's already in your pocket. The hardware is more than amply capable. The fantastic news is it will make some of our job of storage and transfer and even some of our jobs when it comes to image manipulation and editing. The phone makes all of that easier. So, am I suggesting that if we just wipe down the lens on your phone, we can go out and crank out fantastic cinema quality stills and video? Yeah, actually, as long as we're communicating that over the web, where most people are watching this in probably 240p, so not even, I have two televisions here behind me, not even what an old HD TV will pump out the quality at. Yeah, we can actually do really high quality work as long as the expression of that media is over the web. So by and large, the hardware that we will use, by and large, the hardware that the video content, by and large, the content for, the I'll call it the assessment material. So things like our projects that we will be putting together. You will manage that largely, or you can rather manage that largely with just your phones. Now, if you have a digital camera of any sort, and I'm afraid, here we go, that mine have fallen off of here, a digital camera of any sort. Here's a point and shoot. It's the first one I was able to find of my camera collection today. That'll be fine. We can probably play with the settings enough to make that work. If you are coming to us from a place where you are like, I am, an RX 100 person, great, let's use the RX 100 and we'll go from there. All of the things that we're talking about here are as applicable on a cell phone as they are on a dedicated piece of camera hardware. So if you have been nervously clenching, waiting to hear how much money it is that you are going to have to spend on additional hardware to be successful in this course, you can relax. There is no need, there is no requirement to go out and to do any of that. Just one final note here. If anybody does not have a phone with which they can use, if anybody does not have hardware which you can use, please just reach out to me and I will find a way to be able to extend to you the opportunity to use a camera, whether or not that camera is a phone or a point and shoot or an actual DSLR or something. I will find a way for you to be able to participate in the way that is necessary. So for all of you, my expectation really, really is you have the hardware you're going to need, a cell phone. For some of you, if you have more involved hardware, that's fantastic. The things that we can do on a phone, we can do on more dedicated hardware as well. So I hope you will find that good news, because I hate it when we as instructors force you to spend more money than we have to. So the hardware, we're going to start with phones.